Hi, welcome to Fiberchats. My name is Irina, I'm the host here, and my guest today is all the way from Moscow, Russia, Maria from Birdo Embroidery. Hi, Maria.
Hi.
So I saw your account on Instagram, and it's really sort of caught my attention because it's so unusual. Like you have basically embroidery of the places you travel to and places you've seen. So how did you come up with that idea? Like why traveling embroidery?
It's actually not an easy question to answer because I've been wondering here and there around this topic, more or less. So before the travel embroidery, I was actually doing some travel bags. Before travel bags, there was some like embroidered accessories and jewelry. So I was somewhere around this topic, but never actually, tuning into travel embroidery. I think it was at the moment that I started to pay more attention to my painting classes, like regular watercolor painting, that I had an idea that probably the watercolor and brush gives me kind of more freedom compared to regular cross stitch things that I was doing at the moment. And then I was starting to think like, what if I can use my thread and needle exactly as I use my brush and my paints. And at the same time, I think I saw somewhere on Instagram as well, a couple of artists were making like half painted, half embroidered portraits. And I was thinking, wow, that's cool. That's something I would love to do as well. But portraits was never my thing. I mean, I'm not very good at painting portraits and embroidering them as well. So I was thinking like I need to pick the topic that would be interesting for me and that I can actually make with my own hands. So that's how I came to the idea of travel, because traveling was always my thing, actually.
Well, when you think about yourself, do you see yourself more as an artist, a painter, or do you see yourself as an embroidering artist first and painter then? Like what comes first for you in your mind?
I think it's an embroiderer, because I mean, in this area, I can like, provide some high quality products, because I mean, if we speak about painting, that's just a hobby. So I mean, I have never sold any painting of mine, any drawing, just because I don't feel confident in that. It's just a hobby for me to switch from embroidery, or just to have fun. So that's like 100% pure hobby for me.
Right. So when you were little, when you were younger, right, what did you start with? Were you like toying with playing with colors first, or did you start embroidery like really young?
I actually started really young. I think it was like around maybe 5 years old or something, because I remember back then when we were going to embroidery shops with my grandmother, and we were picking, these embroidery kits of different landscapes and like animals. I remember shop assistants were always like, "Oh, that's very complicated kit for a girl like her." And my granny was very proud to tell, no, she can do that, because she's been embroidering for a while. So I really started at an early age, but I also started painting and drawing like around same age, maybe a bit earlier.
So when you started with embroidery, was it like cross stitching? Like what kind of embroidery did you do back then?
Yeah, back then it was just cross stitch. I mean, magazines with different patterns, like kits and etc. So I've been doing this for many years, like, because honestly, I didn't know any other alternative. So I mean, back then you buy a kit or you buy a magazine with patterns and that's it.
Well, it's also like when I look at all the cross stitch patterns, there is this, like pale face with bright red cheeks, and like it's very distinctive colors, right? There's no blending of colors. You don't get the idea that it's like a portrait or a landscape. It's like there's like 7 colors, and this is what you get. How
Yeah,
was
exactly.
your progression, like as an embroidery artist in that respect? Like, do you find it difficult to blend the colors to make it look like a real thing?
Yeah, actually, yeah, it's very challenging. I think for me, it's probably the biggest challenge. It's about color, not about the physical item, not how to, to paint, how to embroider a mountain, but how to choose the right colors. Because if you catch the perfect shape, it's nice. But if you don't catch the perfect colors, then it's like it becomes useless. So I mean, there is no point in copying the exact details if you don't grasp the colors. Well, I constantly compare myself to other artists, of course, and I see some of them really mastering some color techniques, blending, etc. Well, I think what's helpful here is just to, to take, maybe to pay attention to colors outside art. So, I mean, when I don't know, walking in the forest, I try to see how would I embroider this tree or how would I embroider this leaf. I will never do this, but it's just, to train the brain, to train my eye. And also it's very helpful, to look at the sky, also seeing how, if I wanted to embroider that cloud, how would I mix this gray, pale pink, etc., etc. So I think it's more about, looking at the objects.
So I have to ask you this question. One time I was dropping off my son at one of his after school activities, and the sky, it was like sunset, and the sky was just particularly gorgeous, and you could see all those graduate colors, and like there was like reds and oranges and almost like purple blacks. And I'm looking at it and I'm thinking that would make the most gorgeous shawl. So I'm always thinking in terms of knitting, like and I remember like that specific moment because it was probably the first time I caught myself thinking that like I'm looking at nature and I'm thinking how I would create something with the thread, right, with the wool that would look like that. Do you remember like when you first realized that you look at nature and you're thinking in terms of embroidery?
That probably was not exactly nature, but I mean, I was making cross stitch patterns for my travel bags, and there were like, tiny details. And I remember I was embroidering a really tiny mountain, and it was like cross stitch, half stitch. And at that moment, I realized that cross stitch is really limiting me. So, I mean, it's difficult to embroider a tiny mountain using just cross stitches. And also at that moment, I started to pay attention to details because I was using my own photos from travels as my references, and you looking at the photo, I was like, there are like, so many details, so many colors, how would I transfer this? So that's what I remember, but it was just looking at the picture. I don't think I remember any particular case looking at the nature like this. It just happened simultaneously, just without noticing.
Right. Well, so I was interviewing a gentleman from Shetland who does Shetland tweed, right? And he was saying how his frustration when he takes a picture, like when he looks at something with naked eye, he sees like all those little flowers and all the texture of them, right? And then when you take a picture, it sort of becomes just this background with a cloud without all those details. Like, do you have, when I look at your embroidery, like there is one specific one where there is like a flower garden and there is this, like all these different flowers in it, and each one has a different texture and each one has different variations of colors within each flower actually. Do you have the same frustration with like when you look at the picture and you're trying to recreate it in embroidery to like try to pull those details out of the picture?
Well, yeah, actually, every time I finish a new embroidery, I look at the embroidery, I look at my picture that I used, and I'm always very disappointed. Yeah, because it's never, it could never resemble 100% the reference picture, and it's never like I imagined it in my head. Well, I really try to pull out the details. So, I mean, I do it on purpose. It just doesn't come out of nowhere. So, I mean, I try to embroider, you know, kind of in layers. So I would see, like, I would use some, let's say, basic blue. Then I will spend some time looking at this flower, thinking where exactly you can see dark blue, where exactly it could be light blue. So I'm really trying to put details. Yeah, I think it really matters. So when I look at my, you know, works from 2 or 3 years ago and the works I have made recently, I can really see. Before I was not paying that much attention to details. I thought like you grasp the biggest parts and it's kind of enough, you know. Just that's the building, that's the door, the window. So people understand it's a building, it's fine. Now I try to, you know, if it's a window, then it should be a frame of a window. It's good to put, I don't know, tiny curtains. So I intentionally try to pay as much attention as I can to the details.
Do you have hard time stopping yourself from coming back to the same work and like going into more details? Like, how do you tell yourself, you know what, this is enough for this one?
That's a good question. Well, actually, I'm just already physically tired of a particular piece. Well, the garden one that you mentioned is actually a big embroidery. My regular ones are quite small, so it's about 7. No, it's less. It's like 3.5 or 4 inches. So I mean they're small, and when I'm already super tired from this small piece, I tell myself that's enough. I mean, I cannot add anything.
Do you ever go back like a week later or months later and like
well, I don't, because I mean, knowing myself, I seal the back of the hoop like the next day usually, and then so it would be a pity, you know, to tear apart the other part and to make changes. So it stays like this as I finished it, but I constantly regret. I mean, before I was backing the hoop like the same day. Now I have a habit, you know, to back them the other day. So I have one night and one morning, you know, to put my last ideas into the painting. But usually if it's not shipped immediately, then I, you know, look at these for a few days and yeah, if I have started it now, I would maybe change it here or there. So yeah, lots of, you know, ideas.
So do you know how many countries you already portrayed in your embroidery?
Well, I actually put it some time ago in my in the description of my Instagram account, but I don't remember actually. I think 19. I was counting on purpose, but I actually forgot. I think about 19 or 20, something like this.
So like, okay, you're going to whatever, let's say Italy, and you decide to make an embroidery about Italy. How do you pick one spot in Italy to represent that country?
Well, my very first really travel embroidery was in Portugal. So the first one that I started several years ago, I made them at home, just thinking about the travels, my past trips and looking at the pictures. The one that I was really making while traveling was in Portugal. And I think I was totally unprepared, because I just picked some colors of threads with me, thinking that, okay, blue, gray, brown is enough, a bit of different colors, and that's enough. And then when I arrived, I saw a beautiful scene, and there was like a famous Lisbon yellow tram, but then there were like amazing blooming trees, and they were like pinkish, purple, something like this. And of course, I didn't have threads of this color. And all my trip, which was 3 weeks, I was like really physically suffering for not being able, you know, to embroider these beautiful trees. So, I mean, that kind of taught me 2 main things. First is not to torture yourself. Like, I mean, if you don't have pink threads, come on, make, I don't know, a yellow tree or a red tree. I mean, you can find some, you know, way out. And second is to be better prepared. So now when I travel, I first kind of maybe browse the internet or check Instagram for my friends who have been to this country. Like, I don't know, I was going recently to Turkey, so I was on purpose checking like most popular Pinterest pictures just to know the colors that I need. So like popular Turkish tram is red, so of course I need to take the red color and something like this. And then when I take pictures, I kind of have three categories. First is a nice picture to post on my Instagram. Second is a nice picture to paint later because I keep a travel diary with my small drawings and paintings. And third is to embroider. So already when I take a picture, I kind of try to think about where would it suit, you know, just to post on Instagram, or I can use it like as a reference. Usually it's a combination of nature and architecture. Something like, I don't know, a nice building, but also beautiful flowers or trees, something like this.
Is it difficult to pick like one particular scene to embroider?
Yes. I mean, sometimes I like a particular picture so much that, I don't know, I post it on Instagram. I make a painting of it. Then I start embroidering it. And I think, wow, that's too much. I probably need to switch to another scene or something. And then sometimes you want to, on purpose, embroider something from a specific country, like out of a sudden I can think, oh, I need to embroider something from France because like I miss France or something. And then you start browsing all your pictures that you have taken during your trips. This is not beautiful enough, or maybe this or maybe that. So yeah, it's like a painful process.
Have you ever arrived anywhere and you're like, okay, I don't care about anything else, this has to be embroidered, like this particular spot?
Interesting. Well, probably not, because I mean, I also enjoy traveling. So sometimes I start an embroidery right at the place, but then I finish at home because I mean, also because I need to squeeze everything in a couple of weeks that I travel. So of course, I think the priority goes to sightseeing, to meeting my friends, etc. Because also that's an idea for me for the future, trying to make some embroideries that will not take that much time, because I mean, on average, it's like full week of working, not 8 hours, of course, but let's say like 5-6 hours, and it takes a week of 5-6 hours. So I mean, to, you know, completely cross out a week of your travel just embroidering is a bit pity. So maybe in the future I will come out with some designs that will combine more watercolor or more sketchy style, that I can actually complete a piece right when I'm there in that place.
Is there ever a day in your life when you like don't touch the needle?
Yes, absolutely. Sometimes when I finish like big pieces, they really take a lot of energy. So I don't even want to do anything, no painting, no embroidering. Just I completely switch off myself from this. Then just my regular work or my regular daily routine. It could be like a week or even 2 without like any embroidering at all. Yeah, it's good to switch off sometimes.
Right. Do you like when you don't embroider, right? Like when you, I mean, and I totally get it, because like sometimes I would like need, let's say, Shetland lace shawl, which would take me like months, you know, at least weeks or months, you know, like knitting it full time. And I can't even imagine in my brain like what to do next. Like it just blank, like I'm still in that project, I'm still living in it, just because it takes so much time and so much of you that you put in that thing. So I need like the time just to unwind and like let my brain wander. When you get to that point, when you let your brain wander, like do you miss it, or do you like, is your brain constantly working about what's coming next? Are you like seeking inspiration? Do you feel like depleted after that like large project and you're like, okay, I forget about the whole thing, let me just go like do my nails? Like how do you work?
Well, actually, I think I completely turn off my my thinking and my brain about embroidery, because first of all, I'm a bit tired. Then sometimes or rather saying often, I'm disappointed with the result, because usually in your imagination you had a different, like a complete masterpiece or something. So I really switch to other things, like, I don't know, I go in for sports, meeting my friends, maybe reading, maybe doing nothing. Then after some time I start, looking at some references, having ideas, just, I don't know, being on a random walk and think, okay, that could be a nice scene to embroider or something, and then it starts again, so the new project starts.
Well, talking about being disappointed in the final result, are you like hard on yourself like all the time?
Yeah, I think so. It kind of improved in the recent years. I mean, because also I have a team of supporters and followers. I mean, it's good because embroidery and art in general is like a very supportive area. So you can see artists cheering on each other, supporting, leaving nice comments. It's not like, I think in every business you can find this. That helps a lot. Then also many of my fellow artists are also very honest and sincere about their problems and their struggles. And when you read something like this, you feel like you're not alone. It's okay. We are all hard on ourselves. That's kind of helps to improve. But in general, yes, I've noticed a nice pattern that when I start an embroidery, just like my first teachers, I think I'm going to make a masterpiece that would, be in the history of embroidery art forever. Like that would be something nice. It takes me one day of that thinking. Next day and throughout the whole process, I'm thinking that it would be like the worst thing I have ever created. And then it, just like swings. It's, oh, that's a masterpiece. Oh, it's disgusting. Usually when I finish, it feels disgusting all the time. But then after time, when I look at the pictures of my embroideries or I see reviews, I think, yeah, maybe it was a nice thing. Yeah, maybe I created really something nice.
Well, do you have any particular work of yours that you superbly proud of, that you think like it was a masterpiece?
Well, there are a couple of them. Surprisingly, there is one that I completed like almost 3 years ago, which was still nice. It's from inspired by Santorini in Greece. Like, I mean, I probably could have done it in a better way now, but I think it's pretty nice. A bunch of travel architecture pieces, and also my recent one, that big garden one. Well, because first of all, it's the biggest one, and sometimes when I look at the pictures, I don't have that embroidery anymore. It was a custom order, but sometimes when I look at the pictures, I was like, really, how did I have all this patience to embroider all those tiny flowers? Yeah, I think I'm mostly
like,
proud
I was
of this.
studying it yesterday. I was like enlarging the picture and like looking at all those. It's like, it's just mind-blowing because there's so many different kinds of stitches and so many different kinds of flowers, and each one looks individually different from the one next to it. So it's like, I mean, I was like completely in awe. Like, I think this is the picture that caught my attention when I first was scrolling and found your account,
Yeah, it really turned out nicely. I mean, now after some time I finished it. Now I can say I'm proud of it, like, because like first week or maybe I was not very happy with the result. Now when I can appreciate myself better now.
So let's talk about the business side of it. I mean, this is not your main business. You also have full-time jobs. So this is like still a part-time business, part-time hobby. But was it difficult to create market for it? And you sell all over the world, basically, right? You ship it to any place.
Yeah.
Like, was it a difficult process to create the market? Like, how did you start?
Well, it is still a difficult process. I mean, I can't say I mastered it because I was trying to educate myself a bit about the business side of it, but actually it requires so much time, effort, and patience, because I mean, on the one side, you need to really produce physical items. Then you need to maintain your channels, as many as you have. Then you need to like update all the markets you use, update sites, websites. Then these websites, they also like when you post regularly, updates, hashtags. So basically, it's not even if it was my full-time job, one person is definitely not enough. I mean, if you really want to succeed and to make great income, because as soon as I start to to pay more attention to my shop or to the marketplace or to Instagram, then in a very short time I realized it's all nice, but I have run out of embroideries. I need to go back and to make more. While I'm making more embroideries, then all my channels are empty, and it's been a while that I have been posting on Instagram. So it's constantly finding balance. There was a time like at the beginning of pandemic that I lost my main job. So for about 8 or 9 months, embroidery was really, really helpful before I found a new job. So it was like, I was happy that I kind of built some base, some ground for that business. Now it's just something between part-time job and hobby. I mean, so not very great income, but I also am not able to produce many pieces in 1 month. So it's just like 1-2 embroideries per month, not more.
Well, who are your customers? Like, do you feel like you're becoming friends with those people who buy from you? Like, is there a personal connection, or you're always surprised that somebody bought it?
Well, actually, I'm happy you asked that, because one of my customers actually became my best friend. It happened because at the time I was in Portugal, I created 2 Portugal related pieces, and then one customer bought them both. And we started talking because it was nice. It was a person from Portugal who bought them, and we will start talking that because I recently came back from the trip, and that's how our friendship grew. And like, she's my best friend. We keep in touch as much as we can. Because of the pandemic, we cannot meet that often as we wanted. Usually I keep in touch with I would say the majority of my customers, because some of them were following me on Instagram and supporting me for some time. Then they finally bought something from me. Some found me through references, they are friends. Some are actually my friends who want to support my art. So yeah, I think like the majority, I still keep in touch. Some keep coming back for new orders. So yeah,
Right.
it's a very close community.
Do you have a lot of return customers?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah.
It's narrow circle.
How about like your family? Like, were they always supportive in you trying to turn it into a business? Were they skeptical that it can be turned into a business?
Well, it depends. I mean, some of my relatives are very supportive, some are less supportive. I mean, it's a very controversial issue, I would say. Here and there in these areas, some people strongly believe that you cannot make money from art, that it's like, go and find yourself a real job, a real profession. When I started 3 years ago, I was actually thinking to turn it to a full-time job and full-time business. And at that time, I really faced, lots of negativity from like, some family members, from some friends and acquaintances were like, it's not a real job, you cannot make money. Well, eventually for me, it's a part-time job. But I mean, if it happens to be full-time job, I'm fine with it. So I will just put all the effort now that I put now into my main job, I will just try to transfer it to this one. Well, luckily my mom supports me, because she's also crafty, she needs a lot, and she's making gorgeous objects. So yeah, she kind of understands that. But in her a bit old-fashioned maybe way of thinking, it should be like, part-time job. So you need to have, something as a backup. In case nobody buys your art, you need to have a backup. But I mean, I personally think it's a bit old-fashioned. It used to be like this maybe in the past time. So if you produce something and nobody bought it, yeah, you don't have money. Now people are more interested. I think you can try to, you know, to somehow diversify your sales. I mean, it could be patterns, this could be, I don't know, videos, classes. So there are, I think, more opportunities at the moment. So
do you do that? Do you teach how to embroider?
No, not yet. I mean,
is that like something
it requires,
you're about?
yeah, actually I do. Yeah, I do. Well, sometimes people ask me like, can you explain me how you made this? And it's puzzling because I cannot explain how I made this. How did you understand that you need to put, I don't know, a tiny brown stitch here? I don't know how I understood, but I mean, I would try, you know, to figure out myself how I understood that and maybe to teach people, but then it really requires lots of time and energy. Maybe in the future I would love to do something.
Do you think somebody who is not an artist, who cannot draw, can be good at embroidery as well?
Depends on the type of embroidery. Like if we take regular cross stitch or simple patterns, yeah, you definitely don't need to have any artistic skills. Like thread paintings that I do, I think there could be two categories of people. I mean, I definitely see the difference when like an artist starts to embroider, the person with artistic background, and like it's easier for them. I mean, if you can paint well, you can embroider well. Just, you know, get used that in your hand you have a needle, not a pencil or a brush. It's easier, but it's all about practice. Because without artistic background, you just need to practice more. Basically, that's the difference. The amount of time and effort you are ready to invest into this.
Right. Well, I wanted to ask you about the culture of embroidery in Russia. So on one hand, the things that you embroider are travel inspired. On the other hand, there is a rich culture of embroidery going back centuries in Russia itself, right? And you are coming from very crafty family where everybody did multiple crafts. Do you feel like it's in your blood? Do you feel like you were just born to embroider and to be an artist?
Well, back then, maybe I have never asked questions like this to myself. So my grandmother was, you know, like she gave very thorough and very basic background to her children. I mean, she had 3 sons and a daughter, my mom, and all boys were also like cross-stitching at that time, cooking. So I mean, when I grew up, I tried this as well. So for me, it was like a part of, you know, upbringing. You know, I need to learn a bit how to embroider. I need to learn a bit how to sew, you know, how to paint, how to cook. So it was like natural. Everyone was doing it, even my uncles. So why shouldn't I do that as well? I think compared to Europe and to the US, maybe still Russia is more into traditional crafts, traditional embroidery. They are still popular as designs, as patterns, but for modern embroidery, well, it differs. Some people understand that and appreciate this art. Well, some, they still think that it's like, you know, not actually somewhere, you know, between craft and art, and like people hesitate what to think about it. Sometimes people ask me, I mean, in Russia, they ask me like, okay, looks nice, but I mean, how do you use that? Because, you know, in Russia, we are used that embroidery can be applied, you know, I don't know, towels, handkerchiefs, dresses, every type of, you know,
practical application.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, mine pieces are just for, I don't know, inspiration, just to put on your wall and to give to someone. And some people really don't understand that. I think it's because of our, very traditional crafts background. So everything should be useful and practical. So maybe that's the point.
Well, there is this hashtag in Russia that I found that not only grandmas need. Like, is there that perception that like what you do is only for old women who like don't have anything else to do? Like, do people think that you are lazy because you are embroidering, that you just don't want to do like hard work or like other jobs or whatever? Like, is there that preconception?
Well, I was surprised to find out that it's also like this in Europe. So one of my fellow artists also told me like that people who didn't know her in person and were only chatting with her like on social media or something, were surprised to know that she's a young lady, not so it's like a general maybe misconception. Yeah, sometimes people, among my peers, no one seems to be surprised. Actually, I remember now people are surprised when I'm traveling. I sometimes see it in different locations and just embroider on the spot. And in many places, it really creates lots of attention. I mean, people come to me saying, wow, what is this? Oh, wow, that's so nice. Do you do it like for a hobby or is it your job? So I think it's more not about age, but more about that many forgot this craft.
Right.
So sometimes I was once embroidering in the bus, and because it was a long way, it was in Russia, and all the ladies gathered around me saying that, oh, our granddaughters don't do this anymore, they are so lazy. So it's not actually about age, maybe about that not many people want to invest time and patience into something like this.
Do you feel like you're a patient person in general, or do you feel like the embroidery gives you patience? Because when other people feeling fidgety, you can grab your needle and like relax with it.
Well, that's the question I'm frequently asked. Under every my post, more or less, someone asks me, wow, how do you develop this patience? Wow, you must be patient. I don't consider myself to be a patient person. I mean, when it comes to life, I don't know, when I'm hungry, I need to eat right now, I cannot wait. Or when I have a travel plan in my mind, I also want to go and to see something. But somehow, I don't know how really, when it comes to embroidery, I can be really patient. So, even sometimes it may be too patient, to remake something and, to come back to an old piece or something like this. I think in my case, it only works for embroidery.
Right. Well, when you embroider, what goes through your mind? Like, are you thinking, okay, what color? Like, are you technically oriented on the piece? Is your mind wanders? Like, do you combine it with watching TV? Do you have to like concentrate just on that thing? What's your process?
It differs. So when it's, let's say, when it's an architecture piece, I'm usually very concentrated because you can easily see if you make a mistake, and I don't know, because there are tiny details like windows, I don't know, signs, etc., etc. When it's a landscape, I can actually combine it with watching a movie or something, or talking with a friend, because it feels like especially if it's a seascape or some part of, I don't know, forest or flowers, yeah, then actually I don't even need my reference anymore. So I know what I'm embroidering. I grasp the idea of a flower, and then I just meditate and try to imagine what to put next.
Well, when you embroider, right, for business, so every time I'm thinking of like when somebody sells something, there is a way of making something impressive but easy, faster to just mass produce, right? You can embroider like a little thing on the big thing and just paint around, and it's going to take you like a couple hours, versus spending like on the same amount of fabric you can spend a week, right? How do you decide for yourself how much time you're going to put into something? Like, is it an artist or a businesswoman who is in your mind when you decide on your next project?
Well, I would say at the moment it's an artist, but I'm trying to bring my businesswoman as well, because I mean, I always, most of the time I have wrong assumptions about my productivity. I mean, I think that when I start a piece, I usually think, okay, 1-2 weeks, I will finish and start a new one. Well, it rarely worked like this. It can easily take a month or even more. So, I mean, what can I do if I'm not inspired or if I have a lots of things to do for my main job? So, I mean, it's difficult to balance, but I always keep in mind that I need to come up with some series of embroideries that would take me less time, but would be as beautiful as possible as my main things. Because yeah, from time to time, of course, I see, like, I mean, people who spend a day on embroidery and they sell more or less for the same amount of money. And I mean, in 30 days you can produce 30 pieces and I can produce, let's say, one. Even if I try to compensate that in the price of the embroidery, then that would be like, you know, the equal to, I don't know, monthly rent or something, if it's one piece per month. So yeah, I'm thinking that to invent something, but it should be travel related, it should be fast but beautiful. So I mean, almost impossible.
So when you price it, is that difficult to decide how you're going to price something?
It is extremely difficult because I haven't figured it out completely. Because I mean, some say you should think about average hour rate, like in your country or something like this, and just multiply. So, I mean, if I work on one piece for a month, so then it should be like an average month's salary.
Right.
Some people take into account, I don't know, electricity bills, if you embroider at night, you know, all the supplies, shipping. So, I mean, if you really start to think about everything you put into that embroidery, that the price would be, you know, incredible. So nobody would be able to afford that. Then there is also probably a bit of competition. I mean, it's not that strong in embroidery area, because I mean, people buy because they like something. It's not, I buy a landscape from this artist or I buy landscape from another. But still, I mean, if everyone sells that something similar to your art, like let's say for $100, and you out of a sudden sell it for 500, then I mean, people will have questions, unless you are like a superstar of embroidery something. So yeah, my first piece I sold for, I think, for 20 euros 3 years ago, because I didn't know what price to put. Say, okay, I put 20 euros and it went for 20 euros.
I mean, do you feel like because you live in Russia, but you sell internationally, you are at advantage? Because like the hourly rate, depending on the country, can be like vastly different.
Well, I feel like on the, first of all, probably I have access to cheaper supplies because of my national currency. Right. I mean, at least some advantage from the exchange rate. I mean, not that I can earn that much from this difference. But then I know a couple of artists who, for example, create in Canada. And of course, their prices differ a lot from mine. And when we discuss things, yeah, they say like they compare the price of living in Canada and in Russia. I mean, if they sell their art for the same price as I do, probably they wouldn't be able, you know, to buy anything with this money. So yeah.
So what's going to happen next year? They already have all the travel plans in your schedule?
Well, it's so difficult to make travel plans nowadays. I mean, I'm still crying over my canceled trips back in 2020. Well, actually, that garden piece was because I had a trip planned to the Netherlands, and that garden piece was in my mind for that trip. So at least I made it anyway, even though I didn't go to the Netherlands, to that park.
Yet.
I have a few ideas, but I mean, I don't know if I can make them. So probably I will be more oriented on my past trips, So there are still several countries that I have even never embroidered, like Croatia or something else. So maybe I will concentrate on my past trips.
Do you have a place that you like dreaming about visiting one day and embroider one day? Like, is there?
That's definitely Africa. And it's like a dream from really early childhood. I was always watching, you know, all these BBC and wildlife, etc., and that fascinated me a lot. I think nothing changed throughout the years. I still dream to visit Africa, as many countries as possible, just to see all the landscapes, like amazing sunsets, and that would be amazing.
Well, I hope COVID's gonna ease up on us eventually, and I hope you get to travel to all your dream destinations.
Yeah, let's hope for the better.
My guest today, I really enjoyed getting to know you a little bit better.
Thank you very much for inviting. It was my first time speaking, you know, like this openly about art, about the problems, the struggle, the business part. So I really enjoyed. Thank you.
Yeah, I think it's very common actually. It's surprisingly common for like all different kinds of fiber arts, and that's like one of the reasons why I started this channel, to show that like we're all going through the same doubts,
yes,
the same turbulations in life, you know.
Exactly. Yeah, it's actually very supporting to know, you know, that you're not the only one suffering your way through all of this. Yeah.
Well, thank you so very much.
Thank you.